welcome to my side of the internet. My name is Soncerae Monique. I am a certified life coach for both men and women. I have a 50-50 audience, so I try to play fair with both genders. I want everyone to unify and produce loving unions. There is no gender war here. I promote positive perspectives and healthy debates, so be careful what you post inside my comment section. It's okay to disagree, but have emotional intelligence and release toxicity elsewhere, ladies and gents. Straighten up. I currently have the flu. So does my son. So does my daughter. And so does my mother. So forgive me if I sound a little just crazy. I'm not feeling well, but I wanted to go ahead and speak my opinion about this because I've been thinking about it. When I have been feeling well enough, I've been thinking about it. The reason why this specific clip is so cringeworthy to me is because I grew up with my aunts and my mom and my grandmother, and I always remember them telling me the worst advice when it came to men. And I feel like older women are terrible when it comes to giving relationship advice. And because of that, I think it has changed my perspective on this woman and what she's specifically saying. Now, I do feel like my perspective about this is correct, but you may feel different about it. Okay, so you just got to let me know in the comment section what you think. And remember, be intellectual in my comment section. Use your vowels. Use your college vocabulary. No insults. No arguing, really. Just say what you got to say, because YouTube has no problem with deleting your entire ass comment. And then they might just put it in the hell for review tab. And then I got to look at it. And people just don't make the cut once it gets me. Because I just don't release it. I just delete it or just keep it in the hell for review tab. And then no one sees it. So just be careful what you post. Now, inside of this clip, she's talking about the women that call into Kevin Samuels' show. I've never thought that the women that called into Kevin Samuels' show had themselves together mentally. But there have been a few women that contacted him, and they were beautiful women. They had good personalities. They weren't negative women at all. Matter of fact, the clip that made him popular, the one that was released on World Star Hip Hop of him telling a woman that she was going to die alone, that woman was actually a pretty nice woman. It wasn't like she called in with like this ego. She didn't call in being rude to him. She was pretty decent. So I've seen maybe a handful of women call into his show, and they were like, they had their head on straight. But for the most part, I could not understand why women kept calling into this man's show. I just could not understand. And then when they would call into the show and they had all of these negative traits, they were toxic or whatever, to hear how he responded to those women and the things that they were saying was terrible to me. A lot of the things that Kevin Samuels said, I disagreed with, like as far as him telling mothers that they shouldn't believe their daughters when their daughters say that they were sexually assaulted by their fathers, or that men should start dating each other and consider homosexuality because women aren't making the cut. Or when he tried to tell one woman that there were no female great inventors, and then I turned around and listed at least 25 in a video. So the misogyny and sexism and chauvinism that he was teaching men was actually detrimental, and it was divisive. But let's listen to the clip and I'll finish with my commentary.
Women he encountered, women he's listening to, women that called in had a big old ego. And that's the one thing that I took away when I chimed in and someone called. She called like, I got my shit together. A, B, and C. I make this much money. And it took him asking one question. How many kids you got? 2. Okay. Same baby daddy? No. Okay, so whatever your intro is out the door. Out the door, out the window. You got 2 kids from 2 different men. Now, your circumstance might be great. And on the other side of that, it might make sense. But the facts are is you have 2 children from 2 different men that did not marry you. So you need to check yourself. The problem can't be them twice, because if the problem is them twice, the problem is still you. You chose wrong. What's wrong with hearing that? What's wrong with hearing the truth? There are plenty of women listening to this podcast right now who got multiple baby daddies. Check yourself.
So this goes back to the same statement I made about Kevin Samuels not holding men to the same standards that he holds women. And this woman is basically reiterating the same things by saying, oh, there must be something wrong with these women if they had two babies by two men and neither one of those men married that woman. But then she doesn't hold that same thing to Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels has been divorced twice, allegedly still separated and not legally divorced from his second wife. But people feel like he's in a position to be able to give women advice in such a condescending manner. It isn't that what he's saying as being true or being accurate that makes women feel uncomfortable. That's not what the problem is. And I think people misunderstood this. It wasn't that he was quote unquote telling the truth. Inside of the Black community, we tend to think that the truth is supposed to hurt someone. Like, in order for you to keep it real, for the sake of keeping it real, you have to be mean and condescending to do it. And that's the problem. Like, he could have been telling this woman the truth without being condescending or hurtful or rude or vile. You have to get more acquainted with yourself. If you can listen to what Kevin Samuels was saying and how he was addressing these women in such a crass, negative, disturbing way, and you seem to think it's okay because it's the truth. One thing you don't do when you're dealing with injured people is continue to injure them some more. Like, you don't speak to them in such a negative way simply because you want to tell them the truth. You can just tell someone the truth without being hurtful. It's not necessary. You don't have to do all that. And he will go out his way to be hurtful towards these women. And he was doing it to men as well. But I think that men think because he was doing it to men as well, that it was okay for him to do it to women. And it's not. It was never okay. So in order to tell someone the truth, just keep this in mind. It's not a good communication tool for you to be nasty and shit when you want to tell someone the truth. Just tell them the truth. Be kind. You don't have to do anything exceptional in order to be kind to someone. So it wasn't him telling the truth that women had an issue with. It was his condescending tone. And it's unfortunate that married women or childless women tend to look at single mothers as if we just purposely chose men who either didn't decide to be fathers or didn't decide to marry us. And people tried to pull that on me. I heard people have a perspective about my situation because my daughter is 21 and me and her father, oh my God, I love this guy to this day. We're really great friends and we talk all the time. We have an amazing friendship and we've always had an amazing co-parenting relationship. And because we're not married, people automatically assume, okay, something that must have been wrong with me. No, he just had his own issues as far as marriage goes. I don't consider him a bad person simply because he didn't marry me. I mean, he didn't get married at all. He still isn't married. So I don't look at him as a bad person because he didn't marry me. I think he's a wonderful person, especially a father. He's a great father. My son, he just turned 4. He's never met his father. When I was dating his father was separated. He was supposedly separated for 2 years and had filed for divorce. And I spoke to his estranged wife and she wasn't interested in them being married. And then suddenly with time, they decided they wanted to try one more time, which to me, I try to tell people all the time, once you break up with someone, it's like taking a shower and then putting your dirty underwear back on when you try to get back with them because you broke up with them for a reason. So them two have broken up with each other and moved on to other people, both of them. And then instead of just staying apart, they decided they wanted to try to circle back and it still didn't work out. And now they're, legally divorced. So I don't think that he was a good husband for her and he wouldn't have been a good husband for me. And he's not a good husband for any woman because of who he is as a person. So because he didn't marry me as planned and because my daughter's father didn't marry me as planned, I don't look at it as, oh, I just made 2 poor choices as men. You know what I mean? My daughter's father, he was a great choice. And I think with my son's father, he was a bad choice. But it doesn't mean that another man who's looking in my direction should classify me as less than a good woman to be in a relationship with, simply because, like, because I have two children by two different men. And I think it might be, let me just put it like this. Maybe it's because of the age gap between my children. Cause maybe if I had, like, if my son was 4 and my daughter was 1, then I could see someone being like, oh, okay. But my daughter is 21. You know what I'm saying? So the age gap might, that's a big, huge, large gap between children. And so I think it just, a man could look at that situation very differently than he would look at a single mother who has 2 young children. And I always tell people, don't date people who have really young children. Like, their children has to be at least 5. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think. Because it's kind of hard to date someone who has little tiny children, because they need to be looked after. But anyway, so this older woman inside of this clip just turned me off all across the board, because it's like, check yourself. No, just because maybe you're married or you're childless or you had different opportunities or your situations ended differently from someone else doesn't mean that that person that had a different outcome with their relationships deserves to be spoken to in such a condescending, rude ass way. And I just feel like women who are married or women who are childless just feel like women who relationships failed should be spoken to any type of way, or we should be disrespected simply because our relationships didn't work out. That's bullshit, because a lot of people's relationships didn't work out. And just because a relationship didn't work out doesn't mean the end game was always marriage. Some people don't want to be married. And when I'm talking to older women, I just always feel like older women always have something, I don't know, disturbing to say to me. It's like their thought processes as far as men goes, to me, it's hit or miss. Like, you can never get any decent, good advice out of women who are over 50. You understand? Maybe I'm going to just say 45, unless they themselves are like dating coaches or relationship coaches, and they've been that for many, many years. I'm not talking about people who just decided to invest their money into a podcast. I'm talking about people who have years of experience, years of research, and really have put their energy into figuring out the dynamics of people, like the sociology of people. Me, I understand that everyone is a human being. We make poor choices in people sometimes. And for this woman to say, oh, it can't be, if this happened to you twice, it can't be everybody else. The common denominator is you. Well, like I said about Kevin Samuels was divorced twice. His wives filed for divorce twice. So that lets you know that something must be wrong with him. If you're going to hold that standard to women, you have to hold that standard to men as well. So that means Kevin Samuels wasn't in any type of position to give any woman advice about relationships when he failed at both of his. Now, I do agree that a lot of women like to put their education and their money to the forefront and try to, be braggadocious about it, as if those are the number one things that would keep a man inside of a relationship with a woman. Now, I do agree that men should care about those things, but what he should care about more is what kind of woman you are to him inside of the relationship. And whether you have children or not, or degree or not, or money or not, none of those things will tell him what kind of person you are, or how you will treat him inside of a relationship. And even if you made mistakes in the past, we all change so much after we've learned so many lessons, and we grow and we become better. You could be a very different person from the person that you were when you was in a relationship with the last person that you were in a relationship with. Like, you could have been with Timothy 7 years ago, and now you're with Mark, and you treat Mark very different from the way that you treated Timothy, because people evoke different things out of you. You become a different person. Now, not everybody is like that. Some people are just narcissists. Some people are just negative people, and they never change. But for the most part, we all are changing. That's one thing that's inevitable is change. So I just feel like we have to have a better perspective of each other. Everyone wants to be so condescending to each other, and it's weird to me. Everything can be viewed in two different ways, a negative perspective or a positive perspective. You get to choose how you respond to what you are observing or what you experience. If you respond to everything negatively, you will have an unfulfilled life. If you look at the world from a positive perspective, you will notice that most people aren't trying to purposely harm you, and understanding that not everyone is out to get you improves how you communicate with others. You'll start to cultivate better relationships. If you like to schedule a one-on-one coaching session, a FaceTime, or 45-minute call, go to SonceraeMonique.com to make a request. If you need advice or want me to talk about something specific in a video or post, please email me at soncerae@gmail.com, or you can leave me a voicemail message at 929-399-6503. Please keep in mind that I may read your email or play your voicemail message on my channel, okay? Have vision and stay focused. Namaste.